Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon joins me. We're going to talk about the Rockets and Warriors going to a Game 7 following the Rockets win in the Bay. We're going to talk about the Knicks defeating and eliminating the Detroit Pistons, and we are going to talk a bit about the Clippers and Nuggets going to Game 7. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? I'll just stick with the company line. These playoffs continue to deliver. On Thursday night, we got a classic between the Knicks and the Pistons. And then, if nothing else, we get Game 7s out of these other two Western Conference series over the weekend. So, tremendous stuff from the NBA playoffs in the first round. I know there was a sweep there that, was part of it and all of that. But seems like at least one game every day, every night, whatever, is a really good game and all sorts of storylines. And again, 2 Game 7s, one on Saturday, one on Sunday for the weekend, which will be a lot of fun.
It's going to be amazing. The Rockets defeat the Golden State Warriors 115-107. But honestly, it wasn't really that close once we got down to the fourth. And I think where I want to start is the way that the Houston Rockets defended in this game. They obviously give up 107, but a lot of that kind of came a little bit later. I think that the Warriors had like 5 points in the fourth quarter through the first like 8 or 9 minutes. It was pretty ridiculous. And a big part of that, I think where I want to start is this 2 big lineup that they're rolling out. And it's obviously Alperen Şengün, who has been fantastic in this series. He goes for 21, 14, and 6 tonight. No notes again. Şengün was great. The key guy, though, here is Steven Adams. I thought Steven Adams was the best player on the court tonight. I'm just going to say that. I thought straight up Steven Adams was the best player on the court in this game against the Warriors. All due respect to Fred, all due respect to Şengün. But the way that he completely and utterly dominated the interior of the game defensively as they switched to this defense that we're going to talk about and try to talk through the principles of it and try to talk through the amorphousness of what they're doing on that end. I thought that he was really the key critical guy. It felt like a mistake when the Warriors got a rebound because of how good he was at controlling the glass in this game. I think that in the end, if you look at it, the Warriors ended up with more rebounds offensively than the Houston Rockets, but in terms of impact, it didn't feel that way because of how Steven Adams just completely and utterly controlled the interior of this. He goes for 17 points. A lot of those came on just like hack of Steven Adams free throws and everything, but 5 rebounds, a ton of tip outs that he didn't get credit for on rebounds, 3 blocks, and countless other contests on the interior. I thought he was just unbelievable in this game.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, as you talk, we probably throughout this whole thing, we'll discuss this zone and it'll come up in different iterations of the conversation. But I think whatever this defensive strategy is does allow the Rockets to play 2 bigs whenever normally the Warriors are playing small, or even if they're not quote unquote playing small, the big they have on the floor in Quentin Post is a theoretical floor spacer. So essentially it's interesting as well with the Warriors, looking at the starting lineup tonight, they do have some non-shooters on the floor. So that allows you to kind of hide and keep guys closer to the paint with this defense as well and just really focus that attention on Steph Curry. But I agree. I thought Steven Adams was tremendous tonight. I would probably, if we were handing out a game ball, I would probably hand out my game ball to Fred VanVleet. I think more than anything, Sam, it's what he did all regular season in terms of shooting percentages. And then he just caught fire at the perfect time for this Rockets team over games 4, 5, and 6. It wasn't just tonight. It's 3 straight games, I believe, over 25 points, shooting ridiculous from the 3-point line. And he was huge. You mentioned Şengün as well. I could nitpick some of the finishing, something we've talked about all year. It's kind of been up and down even within a game, but I thought he played really well. And you know what? I thought he came up with 2 huge offensive rebounds off the hack of Adams. I mean, how frustrating that is that for Steve Kerr? You go hack of Adams, he misses the second free throw. I think one of them, at least, he had missed the first one also. And Şengün bullies post on one, bullies Draymond on the other, and gets a second chance opportunity. So I thought those 3 guys were really the guys that stood out for the Rockets tonight. Brooks wasn't great. Green struggled again tonight. Amin was good. Amin was fine. But those 3 really stood out to me for the Houston Rockets.
And a, statement / question from Rachel here in the comments is actually like beyond Adams where I wanted to start, because I think this is the critical point in game 7 now at this point. Like this is absolutely the most important thing moving forward. How wild is it that double big lineups are en vogue again? It's, to me, the reason that the Rockets are able to do this is because of the way that they are defending and how they are using their zone. So like in the season, they used like this 2-3 zone that was more of a normal 2-3 zone by and large, with like some exceptions, but for the most part, it was a normal 2-3 zone that they would run. In this series, they're doing something like extremely different that I guess that like it's a matchup zone, but like it's not even quite that necessarily, especially what they used in the fourth quarter, because it's almost like they're starting the possessions in a 2-3 zone and then morphing mid possession into like man-to-man while pre-switching a lot of actions with Adams along the baseline in order to keep him on the interior. It's like not, and then every time that Steph catches the ball, they have 2 guys run at Steph in order just to keep him away from being able to shoot or to have his threes be like heavily contested. And we'll talk about like an adjustment that I thought was a little bit interesting later on that the Warriors made, but I'm not sure that I've seen that before. Okay, I can say this. I've definitely never seen it in the NBA. There are probably some like weird possessions I've seen here and there in college. Like Mick Cronin does some weird stuff at UCLA that like has some of this, a little bit of it, but he's not covering as much ground first and foremost. So it's not like it's not as difficult to do that against the, USCs of the world as it is the Warriors led by Stephen Curry. Right. But the piece of it that's most interesting is the way that they're putting 2 on the ball immediately upon Steph catching it and then rotating 4-on-3 across the back line in the way that they are, while also starting in the 2-3 zone look and not necessarily staying in it. I'm talking through this and I'm watching it where I have full view from like the sky angle of what's going on and what I'm seeing. I can only imagine how frustrating and weird that can be to have to go against if you're Golden State and trying to figure this out on the fly in the middle of the fourth quarter.
And I think what helps it work is, it's kind of like, it's not the Syracuse 2-3 zones, this, Syracuse University under Boeheim, but it's, those guys, they recruited purposely longer athletes, right? Like big, long athletes. And Houston, with what they have, at times on that back line, they can have Adams, Şengün, and Jabari Smith Jr. Like there was a stretch of play tonight where they had those 3 guys plus Tari Eason plus Jalen Green. And then anytime Amin Thompson is involved. So my point is they can just cover so much ground because of their size, because of their length, because of some of the athleticism of some of those guys. Like Fred's the only one that doesn't really fall into that, but he's kind of the point of attack guy. He's not the one necessarily rotating. And there are flaws with it. A couple times Golden State found a way to get Steph on Steven Adams and then he beat him back door. And, there's going to be mishaps whenever you're running this. I for me, I just like the creativity, right? Like, I just love this idea of, okay, this is a Warriors team with very distinct option 1, option 2, and then these other guys fill in roles. How can we disrupt those things? I think it's really smart. It's really fun from Ime and his staff to put this thing together. I want to go back to Rachel's point real quick. Not only is a 2 big lineup in vogue, it's a 2 big lineup that can't shoot outside of 12 feet. Like, that's what's amazing, that the Rockets are making this work. It's one thing if your 2 big lineup is, Chet and Hartenstein, where Chet can space the floor and Hartenstein is this unbelievable passer, or even what the Cavs do, where Mobley's been able to stretch the floor. Steven Adams can't shoot, and Şengün hasn't been knocking down shots definitely outside of 12 to 15 feet, and they're still figuring it out, which is really impressive. So I love the creativity of what the Rockets have done and being able to make these lineups work and make it work specifically on the defensive end.
Yeah. I love the creativity. I love the ingenuity. I love the way that they're figuring out a way to make it work on offense with all of this happening as well. I do worry about how replicable this will be against like Minnesota, for instance.
Sure.
Right? Because Minnesota has like dudes that will just bury you from 3.
Yeah.
As we saw against the Lakers. And like they can try and run at Anthony Edwards and everything and try to make it work that way. And you can try to give him different looks. And again, I'm all for that. And I think that would be interesting to watch. But again, like with how they're kind of spraying the ball right now, it feels like it would be more difficult, and you probably leave Randall open for 3, and then Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, maybe
like, Jaden, maybe you dare Jaden a little bit. I don't know. I mean, that's to your point tonight. The Warriors, Draymond hit his first one, which I actually wrote in my notes, ended up being fool's gold because he tried to take a couple. He was 1 of 4. Butler was 1 of 6. Hield 0 of 4. Peyton 1 of 4. Post 1 of 4. Moody was 3 of 5. Pods was 2 of 6. Those are the only guys that really hit shots outside of Steph tonight from the 3-point line. And it was weird too, Sam. I don't know if you got this vibe. I know the broadcast mentioned it as well. I felt like they were turning down shots at the rim. And I don't know if that was the Steven Adams effect. We've seen Jabari Smith Jr. have some decent rim protection, but it was almost like they didn't want to shoot it in there in the lane. They were spraying out to the 3-point line, almost trying to force that. I wonder if they come back in game 7 and if they see this same defense, which I'm assuming they will, if we see an emphasis on like, let's go ahead and just finish there at the rim. Like let's attack these contests and see if we can finish or draw some fouls or whatever. And maybe it won't prove to be successful. It's not necessarily a team that gets to the free throw line a lot outside of Jimmy, but I think they got to attack the rim in these situations a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with that. And one adjustment that we saw Draymond make and the Warriors make late in the game is that they ran this awesome DHO keeper.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, Steph came off of like a DHO from the corner, and Draymond was like at the elbow. And then instead of handing it to Steph, because he knows that 2 guys are coming at the ball in order to try and stop Steph, he just kept and drove to the rim. That's like one adjustment that you can make in this circumstance in order to make it a little bit more challenging to be able to do that. But, again, like, that came after 8 minutes of this defense, right? And I'd imagine again that, the Warriors will be a little bit more ready to see this again. I mean, this was a bit more aggressive than what we have seen the Rockets be whenever they've played that 2-3 zone. Because again, they're almost switching off into man in the middle of the possession, which makes it more complicated. And again, like, I don't even know that I think Steve Kerr's coaching a bad series. Like, I don't want to go there. I think that Ime is coaching an incredible series more than anything else. To be able to come up with the idea for this, to be able to execute this on the fly, I think is what's so remarkably impressive about what Ime has done here.
Yeah, I would I would be fascinated. It would be really cool just to know what the principles are, what the rules are. I mean, we could go back and, if you watched every possession multiple times and you'd start to figure it out, because I'm with you. It seems like there's certain situations where it's like, okay, now we're just straight man. Like if the ball in a certain player's hands. Like if Jimmy gets it in a certain spot, I'm trying to think. It seemed like he had caught the ball somewhere, and I'm like, oh, now it just looks like they're straight man because Jimmy has the ball in the corner or wherever it was. You know, I'm not saying that was specifically where the ball was, but it just seems like there's certain rules that, okay, when the ball gets here and this player has it, just match with your man. Or if, like you said, if Curry has the ball, we're running two at him no matter what. I mean, even some of his threes, again, the broadcast mentioned it, he's got a player behind him and a player running at him from the front. So yeah, you get one day if you're the Warriors to try to figure it out and counter it and see if you can come up with some things to attack it, because like any defense, there's got to be some holes somewhere. The first time you see it, especially this aggressively, maybe it catches you off guard. But now the ball is back in Steve Kerr and his coaching staff and those players' court to, okay, here's what they're doing. Where are the few places we can really attack this, because there's some flaws, there's some holes for us to go at and get some easy buckets and maybe make them think about staying in it and making some adjustments.
A couple other just quick things on the Rockets here. For the most part, the kids I thought were pretty good tonight. Like Alperin obviously goes for 21, 14, and 6. A big part of that crazy amorphous zone defense, because he is playing off of either Draymond Green or if Gary Payton II's on the court, like he's just able to play off of them and move around and be almost like the chess piece, the queen on the chessboard, right? That's able to kind of move around and, you know, be there and help constantly while Steven Adams is in the paint, being able to shut that down. Credits Alperen Şengün, another really strong defensive game. I thought the finishing is what it is, but he still had an incredible impact in this series. I thought Amen Thompson was mostly good tonight for the most part, especially in the second half. His, you know, ground coverage on defense makes this defense playable. Yeah. Frankly, if you don't have somebody like him, just flying around and making reads and anticipating everything, it's just really hard to be able to make something like this work. I thought Tari Eason and Jabari Smith were both active on defense. They went around on defense and then made some timely shots. Both of them made 2 for 3 from 3 in this game. The only guys that like really struggled, I thought, for Houston were Jalen Green, who was, again, just really bad, unfortunately, in this game. But he did do a job late. He was the one kind of chasing around Steph a bit later on defensively. It's just the offense is so bad right now. Like he just looks completely lost to me in terms of decision making. His shooting, you know, obviously, I just want to like stop him and just go, stop fading, stop drifting whenever you take shots, right? But he does, and he goes 1 for 6 from 3, and like he just continues to like go away from the rim whenever he tries to finish, and the decision making is really bad. Like he'll have mismatches from guys like Alperin on the block, and he'll just like completely look them off. Like, I mean, he played 32 tonight. He was good on defense late, but man, it's interesting for sure.
This is a very, and I'm not trying to pile on Jalen Green. Again, we give him his flowers when he plays really well. This is another example of single game plus minus, not telling the whole story. Over at the Pistons Pulse, we say friends don't let friends use single game plus minus, because Jalen Green was a plus 20, the best on the Houston Rockets, and he was not the best Houston Rocket tonight. Not even close to it. I didn't think Brooks was particularly great either. I'm glad you brought up Jabari and Tari, because if you just look at the raw box scores, it's not crazy, even though Tari did have 5 stocks. I thought Tari had some big buckets in the first half, and then Jabari had some big buckets in the second half. Jabari specifically hit back-to-back 3-pointers, one off like the scrambled situation. He dives on the floor, gets up, and then goes immediately into the catch and shoot. And then I believe very next possession, Steven Adams gets an offensive rebound, comes out. I think maybe there was a one more pass, and then Jabari hit another one. I saw your tweet where, attacking off the bounce is still a little bit of a
dribbling is a problem.
is something to be worked on. But I have like Jabari in his minutes in the series, and just in general, those 3 guys, those 2 plus Steven Adams off the bench, gives them 33 points, a bunch of really quality minutes, a bunch of really quality defense, and that's huge for Houston for having those 3 guys to come in and really, really contribute the way they did.
Yeah, no, awesome basketball game from the Rockets. From the Warriors side, I mean, like, again, it felt like Jimmy and Steph were alone on offense. Yeah. I know that, you know, Moses Moody has 13, but he does it on 13 shots, right? Because he can't really finish on the interior. And, Brandon Pajemski has 10 and 7 and 3 assists, but just missed some timely shots, right? Like, whereas Jabari and Tari made their timely shots, Pods missed his, right? So, it's a single game. Sometimes you just kind of miss shots, right? It is what it is. And Pods is a good shooter. He'll probably come back, but that ended up kind of being a difference in the game, is how the kids ended up hitting timely shots.
Yeah, I mean, Butler goes for 27 on 17 shots, but he's 1 of 6 from 3. Obviously, getting to the free throw line was huge, and nearly a triple-double for Jimmy. 29 points on 23 shots for Steph. I thought we were going to have just like a ridiculous Steph game, because went on a little bit of a flurry, and then it looked like he was really in a rhythm, and then it just wasn't tonight. But Buddy didn't give them anything tonight, in my opinion. And then, as you mentioned, Moody's was, hit or miss. Pods, a little bit, but just not enough. They're going to need those guys. I mean, I don't know. If you asked me who was going to win Game 7, I'm struggling, as much as I believe in Steph Curry and the experience of playoff Jimmy and Draymond Green, I'm struggling to not think that Houston's going to still find a way to win this game, because I don't know if I trust the other guys enough. And I don't even know if I trust Draymond. Like, he just always, he got a flagrant one tonight. He was, I know that's normal Draymond stuff, but I don't know. I would not. Here's what I'd not be shocked if Fred is the X factor to me, Sam.
Yeah.
Because regardless of how Jalen plays or whatever, if Fred is doing this again, if Fred goes for 25 again in Game 4, I think the Rockets probably win, because that's the backcourt perimeter offense we're always talking about with this team. And if they get that from him, I believe what Şengün's going to do. I believe what Amin's going to do. Quite frankly, I believe what Steven Adams is going to come in and do, because Golden State doesn't have an answer for that, in my opinion. They don't have it on the roster. So to me, it comes down to Fred. Fred has another 25-point game. I think the Rockets actually still Game 7.
Fred, 25 points, 6 assists in Game 4, 26 points, 2 assists in Game 5, 29, 8, and 8 in Game 6. Just 3 knockout performances from Fred VanVleet in huge spots for the Houston Rockets. This is why you have him on the team, right? Like, this was the whole thing. This is why you sign him, and he's been great.
Yep, I agree.
Who wins?
Who? All right, I'm gonna go Warriors in 7. Obviously in 7, that was dumb. I don't know that I think Fred's gonna do it again, and I hate to bet against Fred VanVleet because I truly do like him, Wichita State, but I just don't know that he's gonna. Again, if he does it, then I'll be wrong. It'll be Rockets. I don't know that he's going to. I have a hard time betting against Steph Curry, so I will go Warriors, even though I don't feel very good about it.
The 2 X factors are Fred, like you said, and the Warriors figuring out an answer in these next 36 hours to what this defense is.
Yeah.
Right. That is the critical, those are the non-negotiables to me. The Warriors need to figure out how to get Steph free from what Houston is running, because that's what it comes down to. Like, you have to have Steph be able to score and play efficient level basketball. I thought they looked tired tonight, honestly.
That is a great point, Sam. So whenever I turned on the Game 5 film, and I did already know the score, so maybe that skewed my opinion, but I turned on the Game 5 film, I'm like, this looks like a throwaway game. This looks like hey, we're tired. We're really not going to put much into this. We're on the road. We're getting ready to go back to the target. Like, we'll let this one go, or excuse me, the Chase Center, and then we'll go back to Game 6 and we'll take care of it at home. And it didn't look like that worked in terms of like having that extra energy tonight or that extra boost. You could be right. Like, Houston may have just wore them down in this series. And of course, Golden State had to play the one extra game to get in to the, with the play-in game. You might be right here. Like, they may just be gassed, and it's day off game. It's not like there's 2 days here to prepare and rest up. They might be done, like, in terms of just like not having the juice to do it.
Yeah. So in this series, Steph has played 42 minutes, 23 in game 5, which was good. 42 minutes, 23 minutes, 39 minutes, 41 minutes, 37 minutes in the last 5 games. Jimmy Butler obviously did not play one of the games in game 2 or game 3, and barely played in game 2, but 42 minutes, 40 minutes, 42 minutes, and then another game with 25 minutes. Like, you would think that they're able to kind of work through this, but I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, they looked like they didn't have it tonight in terms of like the energy. They couldn't get on top of the Rockets tonight at any point, it felt like to me. So I think I'm going to go Rockets, honestly, at home. Like, it's a tight game. Like, it's a very, very tight game that I think could genuinely go either way. I don't know what to do here. I think I'm going to say Houston, though.
Listen, I'm cool with it. I had every intention of picking the Rockets coming on the episode, and Steph Curry is probably my all-time favorite player, and so I just can't do it. But I don't blame you one bit. I would not be shocked at all if we get Rockets Wolves in round 2.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we get Jimmy Butler going for like 21 for 24 from the line. Sure. And like, Steph drills 5 threes and they win by 8 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's genuinely either way to me. Like, this is a really tough, tight series, I think.
I will say, if anybody's going to figure out the defense and what to do offensively in 36 hours, you would put some money on Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler, right? Like, if you're going to, if you're going to put your faith in any trio of players in the NBA, those 3 guys have to be towards the top. And now here's the caveat. They may come to the conclusion that the other 2 guys on the floor have to make shots. And then it doesn't matter if they figure it out. If Buddy has a bad night and Pods has a bad night and Quentin Post has a bad night, etc. Maybe it doesn't matter. But I trust that those guys will come up with a game plan along with the coaching staff.
But I also think that the way that you make role players in the NBA successful is by prepping them for what defenses are going to throw at them. Right.
When I catch the ball here, you go there. I'm going to put it in your pocket. You just be ready to shoot it. Don't cut. Right. Don't screen. Don't go try to find Steph. Just move to this open area, and I'm going to throw you the ball. You catch and shoot 6 times. We need you to make 3 of them tonight. Wide open attempts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm genuinely interested. Like, I am so excited for this game on Sunday. Yeah. I think it's going to be amazing. We will definitely go live after this game. We will not go live tomorrow. Tomorrow is my wife's birthday. Happy birthday, Laura.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
That game will be at, I think it's 8:30 Eastern time.
Yep.
And then we will we'll go live immediately after that. We'll talk about Indiana Cleveland game. Yeah, game 1. Probably a bit of Clippers, Denver game 7, and then Golden State, Houston as well. And at some point we have to do a mock draft, Bryce. Like, that is the reality. So, we will find time to do something along those lines this week. Okay. Before we move on to these games yesterday, PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. It is also the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You can cash in on the basketball playoffs with PrizePicks. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your PrizePicks lineup. Whether it's points, rebounds, assists, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. Then turn your playoff hot takes into tickets to basketball's championship series, starting with the play-in. Every lineup you make on PrizePicks will enter you in the Takes 2 tickets sweepstakes, which could get you and a +1 a VIP trip to the ship. PrizePicks just remains the best place to win cash while watching sports. Every Tuesday, PrizePicks will discount several projections on the board, usually by 15 to 25%. And then Fridays, as today is Flex Friday. Make sure you opt in and tap the checkbox in your lineup builder to be eligible for the protected play. Choose squares from any game on the board if your lineup does not win, you will get your net losses back in promo funds up to your promo limit as soon as the lineup settles. Download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Okay, let's talk about Nuggets Clippers first, quickly.
Okay.
So I went through this like this morning for the most part, and like I watched it like a bit last night, and then went through it like this morning and like really tried to figure it out a little bit. I was fascinated with the way that the Clippers came away with the ability to kind of slow down Jamal Murray, as much as anything, because he really got rolling early, and that was while Chris Dunn was on the court. And then they took Chris Dunn off the court in order to boost their offense, which to me was kind of the key, substitution pattern of the game. And they still figured out the way to slow Jamal Murray down after he had already been really, really hot. So I am so interested and so fascinated in just where this series goes in Game 7. I mean, Bryce, where are you at after this?
Yeah, it was interesting. We've given Chris Dunn a lot of love, but he plays 10 minutes in this game. And quite honestly, as you kind of alluded to, they didn't miss him a whole lot, because I think, then you end up with like Kawhi guarding Murray some when Batum wasn't playing center minutes, which he did whenever Zubac was out, because they did not play Ben Simmons in this game. You could have Batum guarding him a little bit, Derek Jones Jr. a little bit, which, I mean, is a little bit more size for sure. But, I think they neutralized him, as you said, even after he got it going a little bit. He still had 21, but on 19 attempts, he did have 8 rebounds, 8 assists. So still a solid performance from Murray. I think I also come away impressed. We talked about it going to, if anybody is going to do a decent job on Jokic, it's going to be Ivica Zubac. Like Sam, I'm getting like into like scary places with where I think he is as a top blank center in the NBA. I mean,
he's been a top 5 center in the league this year for sure. So
it's ridiculous. And he had back-to-back isolation defensive possessions versus Jokic in the fourth quarter, I believe. He took away the 3, doesn't foul, and contested the shot, all on the same possession. Jokic catches at the 3-point line. He closes out to him, doesn't give the catch and shoot, moves his feet. Jokic, like on a spin move, tries to rip up through. Zubac moves his hands out of the way, but still stays connected in phase to contest the shot. I think one, he actually blocked it. One, he just, forced the miss, let alone what Zubac is doing on the offensive end to go along with all of it. I know he only had 10 points in this game, but just a really impressive performance from him. I know we're going to talk about James Harden because this was a huge bounce back game for him as well. But if you would have told me that the Clippers held the Nuggets to 105 and all of that, I would have assumed Chris Dunn was a huge part of that calculation. And, shout out to Ty Lue, for saying like, hey, this isn't working. I'm going to go a different direction. It paid off. I'm fascinated to see if Batum just starts on Saturday or if they still start with Dunn and then he goes to that lineup and rotation, very quickly. But they figured it out and we get a Game 7.
I would guess that they start Dunn and then just go to that, try to keep their rotations pretty steady. But honestly, I'm kind of anticipating they close with Batum again. You know what I mean? Like, I think that is what their most effective lineup was, in part because like you do have to guard Batum. Like if you don't stay on him from 3, he is going to hurt you. Like he hit 2 of 5 last night and he's a real shooter. But beyond that, he's also a really quick decision maker. Like he has always been an excellent passer. Like that's who he is. And he covers ground quickly, even still, because he's big and like can cover ground with his long strides and then just kick out when he has to, right? Like he had 6 assists in this game. I thought that he was just spectacular. I thought he was
5
so
stocks
good
as well, Sam. 5 stocks as well, and had a transition chase down block. I think he had a block on Jokic, maybe. Yeah, a recovery block on Jokic as well. it was a really good performance from Batum.
But you mentioned the key guy here. Look, like we can talk about Kawhi going for 27, 10, and 5, and he was the best player on the court. Like, it is what it is. Like in that game for that night, he was better than Jokic. Jokic is a better player overall. Like we get it, but Kawhi was great. I do think the key was the bounce back from Harden.
100%.
Harden going for 28 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, 10 of 20 from the field, 5 of 5 from the line. Look, from game 1, game 2, the thing I've been saying is that the place where the Clippers have the biggest advantage is in ball screens. If Harden is the Harden we saw throughout the regular season. Now, you don't always get that Harden in the playoffs. That's the reality of who James Harden has proven to be throughout the course of his career. But man, when he has it going, he's a genuinely special ball screen creator. And to me, I think that his ability to get downhill is the critical piece of this moving forward for them. He has to be able to turn the corner depending on the coverage that the Nuggets are playing.
I agree. It opens up everything. It opens up Kawhi. Norm Powell has found his footing on the offensive end. I thought he had a really nice offensive game as well. He's good relocating. You mentioned Batum, good relocator, corner 3-point shooter. Derrick Jones Jr., good on cuts and those type of things. All of that looks a whole lot better and more effective when James Harden is breaking down your defense. And I don't know that the Nuggets have a great answer for stopping that when he's in the headspace and having the mentality that he had. It showed up right from the start. Like the very first, 2-3 minutes of the game, you could see his mentality was just different. And we often see players do that. We're going to talk about a player we saw do it for a game or two in the final series we're going to talk about, or the next series we're going to talk about. But then it waned as it went on. I'm referencing Karl Anthony Towns here. Harden cannot let it fall back to what we saw in game 5 in game 7. He has to be the same guy, the same mentality, looking to score, looking to break down the defense, taking those step back, pull up 3-pointers, but most importantly, breaking down the defense and creating and making life easier for Kawhi, for Powell, for Zubac, whoever. That he has to be the driving force of the offense in that particular way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And for the Nuggets, like the key for them now is that they need to find Michael Porter, right? Like Michael Porter goes for 5 points and he was total.
I did not realize his stats in this series so far, Sam. Like it is raw. Like I knew he had the bad game 1, and then he came back in game 2 and had the 15 and 15 game. Like it's been a little up and down, but he's at 10 points on, like he's 46% from 3, but the 2-point percentage is just not good. They need more from Michael Porter Jr.
He's just really hurting them. It feels like, and he's hurt, right? Like in the games where he just doesn't have it, it's a problem. You know what I mean? Like it's a real problem in the games. Like he just can't play, honestly, in those games, and they kind of figured it out at a certain point. He played 24 minutes. Russ obviously came in for him and kind of closed down the proceedings as well. So, and Russ went 2 of 4 from 3, and you just never know. I mean, it's going to be trick or treat with Russ from that. So, look, I picked the Clippers in 7. I think at the start, I'm still going to ride with the Clippers in 7 in this thing. I think they've been the better team throughout the majority of the series at this point, but again, like it's Jokic on the other side, and Jokic could go for 40, 20, and 10, and it wouldn't blow my mind. Like that's how he is.
Yeah, I think I'm going Clippers. I can't believe it, but I don't love picking against Jokic, but I'm with you. I think the Clippers all around have been the better team. I've kind of been on the Clippers bandwagon going back to the regular season, and Jokic will probably go for like 50, 20, and 12 or something crazy. But I'm going to go Clippers, and I don't feel great because I don't like picking against Jokic. But if Harden, in the similar way that Fred, they do it in very, very, very different ways. But in the similar way where I said Fred was the X factor for the Rockets winning in Game 7, to me it comes down to James Harden in Game 7 for the Clippers. I think I know what Kawhi is going to be. I think I know what Norm Powell, Zubac, like I think I know there. If Harden has one of those games where he's unaggressive, not taking shots, takes 5 shots or something like that, then the Nuggets are going to win the game. But if he's aggressive like we saw in Game 6, I think the Clippers will be okay. I think they'll win.
Yeah, look, like the thing about Game 6 was that the Nuggets shot 41% from 3 and the Clippers shot 30% from 3. And the Clippers still found the way to win. That's the craziest piece of it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That feels surprising to me, like across the board. And look, like I'm aware that by saying the Clippers, I am saying that James Harden's going to have 2 straight great elimination games, which I don't know when the last time we saw that was. So like, there's a real chance this looks stupid. Like I'm fully cognizant of what I say when I say this here, but also the last time we saw Kawhi in a Game 7 was, if I remember correctly, the Toronto Philly game where he drilled the 3 that like bounced 6 times on the rim and ultimately sent the Sixers home. So I don't know. I'm fascinated. And look, like, you know, betting against Jokic is never a good plan, but
yeah, no,
that's where I'm at.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I don't feel great about it, but I think it speaks more so to, I guess, kind of how I feel about the Nuggets and how I feel about the Clippers and the team they have.
Shout out to our good friends over at Skims. Whatever your usual complaints are about underwear, you better believe that everybody has them. You're not alone. Between comfort, fit, you know, having to shop for it, all the trial and error and the guesswork that goes into it, the design of underwear, we all know that it can just be incredibly, incredibly frustrating to deal with having to buy underwear. Skims has made buying underwear easy, though. We are huge fans of Skims here. It is absolutely a fantastic product. You know, the stretch 5-inch boxer brief is just a terrific product, especially to go and work out in. It is just an elite pair of underwear. Go to shop Skims men's at skims.com and also go to Skims stores. Let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Skims is the official underwear partner of the NBA, WNBA, and USA Basketball. Go to shop Skims men's at skims.com. And then you can also go to Skims stores all over. Okay, Bryce. We have to do it. We have to do a wrap up. We're going to do it without Andrew today. Andrew, if you haven't noticed, is quite busy over the last 24 hours.
It's what happens when your team wins. Everybody wants to talk to you still. When your team loses, nobody asks you on their podcast anymore.
It's true. It's true. We had to get rid of him. We absolutely had to get rid of him. Okay. The New York Knicks defeat the Detroit Pistons 116-113 on truly just an all-time highlight.
Yes, it was.
From Jalen Brunson.
Yep.
He goes for 40 in this game, by the way. Like, I feel like the fact that he went for 40 is like almost going understated a little bit because of the final shot. I mean, he just completely obliterates Asar Thompson's ankles. Asar was great in this game, I thought, defensively up until that moment. And my goodness, he just absolutely created like 12 feet of separation on this step back between the legs jumper. And it was curtains. And that was it. And the Pistons ran like an amazing set, I thought, coming after that Jalen Brunson 3. And it was hard for the Knicks, to foul up 3. They ran like this crazy screener action to be able to get Beasley loose on the opposite wing. And Beasley just bobbled it.
Yeah.
And that was your series.
Yeah. No, it was an unfortunate way to end for the Pistons. You'd like to at least see him get a shot up and, you know, potentially knock it down. But yeah, shout out Jalen Brunson. You know, we saw his fourth quarter heroics, clutch, all of that stuff throughout the series. And then, as you referenced in this game, like Ausar was really good. But unfortunately, honestly, he had 2 breakdowns late defensively. The possession before, I believe it was the possession before that tied it up, he misses the box out on Mikal Bridges. Bridges gets an offensive rebound off a Brunson mid-range miss. And then the isolation possession, Brunson just, I think an underrated aspect is Brunson's handle. We talk about his footwork when he gets into the lane, but he has some nice, very intense, like crossover between the leg moves, some in and out dribbles, stuff like that. With his change of direction, he went reverse between the legs there. Ausar overplayed it. And, Brunson got a really good look and, banged it along with it. It's one thing to create the separation. I think the other thing I want to quickly mention here on the Knicks as well. I mean, not that we can talk.
Hold on.
Okay.
I want to pause on Brunson here.
Okay. Sure.
Because this series, I don't know if you saw this, the lowest average margin of victory for any playoff series ever to go over 5 games.
Okay.
I think it was like 4 points per game in terms of the average margin of victory for each team, which is just crazy. I mean, you go 6 games, it was just an absolute war in and out. I do think that the reason the Knicks won this was ultimately Jalen Brunson.
I agree.
And it, like, the entire series.
Yep.
He was the entire reason they won the series. And the reason for that is because of something that we talked about after game 4, if I remember correctly. They just closed out. They closed games out much better than this young Detroit team. And that's the reality. And it was Brunson.
Yep.
Brunson is the guy that closed games, and he was the one that was successful and finished it out.
I couldn't agree more. Like he really was. When he got his opportunities, it seems like he was able to, take advantage of them in those situations. And it showed out throughout the series in general. And he did it in this game. From the very start too. Like, that's the other thing I want to point out. He came out in this game and was like,
totally.
You could see that there was the twitch and the bounce in his step, and he created separation against Ausar early in the game on a mid-range jumper. Like, he went to his left, hit him with between the legs, back to his right, and created. And it was like, oh, like he's got it going tonight. And then it just continued. I think the thing that went underappreciated for Brunson in this game was his passing. He had, I guess I'll just spill it now. Like, I'm going to do some video work for Knicks Film School now that the Pistons season is over. And just because I like to do video work. And so I asked Andrew, GMAC, if I could help. And so the first thing I'm going to do will be dropping on Saturday as I broke down Brunson's Game 6 performance. And one of the things I really highlighted, though, was his passing, Sam, and his creation. He had 3 ridiculous eye manipulations in this game. One that stands out to me the most: breaks down the defense, gets the middle of the floor. Cade is 2-on-1 on the weak side as the weak side defender. Josh Hart on the wing, OG Anunoby in the corner. Who do you want to take that shot, right? OG Anunoby. Brunson comes down, stares at Josh Hart on the wing. Cade rotates towards Josh Hart, opens the passing window for Brunson to go directly to Anunoby in the corner, and he knocks it down. Lost in all of that, because like you said, the 40-point game almost got lost behind the big time shot, is also the fact that I believe he had 8 assists in this game, 7 assists in this game, and only 2 turnovers.
Yeah. No, I mean, he was truly elite throughout the course of the series. He had like 1 down game, and that was it. I mean, he was, like I said throughout, that I thought Cade was the best player in the series, but it was Brunson. Yeah. Brunson had the biggest impact on the series at the end of the day, for sure.
Yeah. GMAC asked me that today. We recorded like a exit interview thing or whatever. And I said Brunson, and I said, I think it was Brunson and then Cade. And then there was a tier break after that. I think Cade was better defensively than Brunson was, but Brunson's overall offensive game, scoring, I think, makes up for that. And at the end of the day, Brunson's team won, and Brunson made the big shots in the big moments. And Cade had some opportunities, Sam, in game. He had it again in Game 6. I always go back to Game 4. Cade ended Game 4 with miss mid-range, turnover, miss mid-range, and all people talk about is the foul at the end of the game. And then in game 6, he has a left hand. I know you broke it down
The
on
two
Twitter.
left-handed layups.
Yeah, and you thought one, he should have, I think you were making an argument, he should have went under the defender for an inside fit.
Well, to me it's like slow step, use your body, and then extend out. Like
Yeah.
he had one extra step if he wanted to use it. He could have slow stepped, used his body to bump Towns, and then landed with his right and actually used his length to extend and get his left hand right to the rim.
Okay.
And
I see what you're
instead
saying.
he kind of like went for a little like fading shot. And then the second one, if I remember correctly, or was that the leaner? I can't remember. The second one, I think he attacked OG into Mitch in a ball screen and used like a little gallop step to be able to like try and like pause Mitch in the ball screen, thinking he might go for a pull up, and then he just goes and beats Mitch to the spot. And honestly, should have made that was the one that I thought he should have made. He got like a really clean look. He just kind of faded away from the rim. That was the one where he went with the leaner, if I remember correctly. Kind of faded away from the rim and just kind of took the ball with him, and he, just didn't have great touch on the shot at the end of the day. So, yeah, I mean, look, we've talked about this all year with Cade. Like that's the last frontier. I know people will bring up the pull-up shooting, right? The pull-up shooting needs to improve. I don't disagree with that necessarily, but I think with where he is as a shooter, that will come. The thing that's like a little bit more questionable for me and where he needs to improve, I think this summer, is on those gathers and those ball pickups going to the rim and being able to get there and finish with the left, finish with the right. He shot, I think, 49% on layups this year as a whole.
Yeah, no, there's real area. I mean, what's scary is there's real area of growth. And
totally,
I do think I looked at his numbers for the playoffs, and it was like the two things that really blatantly stand out is the 3-point percentage and the turnovers. And the thing with the 3-point percentage is he shot it better from 3 during the regular season. And I wonder if his legs got a little bit tired. We've seen this with Cade, where when he gets wore down just a little bit, his shot gets flat. And I felt like it got flat and he missed short a lot. I mean, I'm not trying to be like arrogant here, but I feel like I've watched Cade his whole career, and I can almost tell you whether he's making the shot on the release. Like I can just tell by the release, if it's got a little bit more underneath it, it's usually going to go in, maybe miss long. But usually whenever you can see it come out just a little bit flat, and it's like, oh, that one's hitting the front of the rim. And I always have felt like it's because he doesn't always have his legs fully underneath him. But I still think it was a great series for Cade Cunningham. It's ended up like 25, 8-8 or something silly. And again, I think he's I think he's at least a neutral defender. And I think he ended the series with 3+ stocks per game, which is impressive as well for a number 1 option that didn't have a number 2 option on the offensive end.
Totally agree. And I guess the next question is like, what do the Pistons do from here? And we will do an entire offseason preview of the Pistons at some point here. Andrew and I are kind of hard at work on creating graphics for those while we talk about them. And we will have those probably starting next week, would be my guess. We'll do the teams eliminated in the first round first, and then we'll get into some lottery teams because we want to see who wins the lottery, obviously, first. And this is just like the real question. Like, you and I have talked relentlessly about the fact that Asar and Jalen Duren continue to go into the same areas of the court. And on that first,
they're like magnets.
They really are. And also, I don't want to like just blame the players here.
Sure.
It's an intentionality thing to me, because like on the first possession we talked about with Cade, where he took and missed the layup, right? With like a minute and 10 seconds, something like that to go. The very obvious answer to me in terms of why it looked so funky was, okay, you're going to bring Duren up as the screener. I'm for it. It sounds great. I have no real beef with it, right? If that's the case, your offensive architecture needs to be that Jalen Brunson is in the weak side corner, which means you start Schroeder in the weak side corner, you start Tobias Harris on the wing, and that's how you make the structure work. And then you run the ball screen for Duren. He rolls into the empty side where there's only one guy in help, and it's Brunson.
Yeah.
And that becomes way more of a difficult thing to guard. So I don't want to sit here and just blame like the players and their magnets for one another and like everything. I do think there's like real offensive infrastructure work that needs to happen here. and they need to improve their intentionality in terms of how they space their guys on the court.
Yeah. So it's funny because when it works the best is when the Knicks put 2 on the ball. Traditional pick and roll with Cade and Duren, a 1 and a 5. And when the Knicks put 2 on the ball, well, now Duren is short rolling. So Duren's not rolling all the way into the lane. Cade's obviously not getting downhill because he's getting double teamed. And so why that looked so good in game 5 was they would hit Duren on the short roll. Josh Hart was the low man. He would help. And then now they had Brunson having to play as the weak side 2 versus 1 with Ausar being able to cut baseline because nobody's coming deep into the lane to the rim and then a shooter spaced on the weak side. And Brunson just couldn't do it. And so we saw Ausar look really good in that 2-man action between Duren and Ausar look really good. You can't just run 2, short rolls all game. You want to be able to have Cade attack, get in the mid-range, snake, throw lobs to Duren, those type of things. But when Asar's natural instinct is to cut to the rim every single time, it becomes an issue. I'm going to throw out the name we've already discussed in text messages because I spent all morning on my drive to my store and back thinking about this. I'm really warming up to the Brook Lopez idea, depending on what the money is and what we think his role is still going to be in this league. What do you think about that for the Pistons? Does that is Lopez signing up to be a starter somewhere? Is he signing up to be a backup? Is he where do you think Brook Lopez is at in his career? Because I think if he would sign up for the role, I think that could be a very interesting proof of concept player where you don't dump a bunch of resources into it, but you get like a 1-year idea of what does this look like with Cade? What does it look like with Ausar having this stretch big on the offensive end? Because to answer the question, it's not Isaiah Stewart. They've taken that out of his game a lot.
Yeah.
That's at least this year under JB and Trajan and the new organization, that was not an emphasis for Isaiah Stewart whatsoever.
Yeah. So first and foremost, shout out to C for the super chat. Second, so there are reasons I like the Brook Lopez idea. There are reasons I don't like the Brook Lopez idea.
Yeah.
The reason I like it is because it creates the space that we're talking about, right? And it allows for a number of different fun screening options where you set Ausar as the screener, you use Beasley in like guard to guard screening actions, and you can use Brook as a pick and pop guy for sure if you want, but you can put Brook in the corner and create options that way. Like there are different things that it creates. On top of it, you already have the Isaiah Stewart, player there. If you need to close or if you need to go to a totally different thing where he's able to guard in space, he's able to guard in different ways. He's a really sharp help defender. Like if you don't want to just play straight drop, or if the drop is struggling in some way, shape, or form, you have already a ready-made counter in-house to be able to do this, right? And that's a really big key, I think, if you're going to make Brook Lopez work right now. The downside of this is it just totally takes away any lob threat.
Yep.
Right? Because Brook is not a lob threat. Isaiah Stewart is not really a lob threat either.
Nope.
So you would almost again have to rely on like Ausar becoming that. And I don't know that he's certainly athletic enough. I just don't know if he's big enough to do that, frankly, at the NBA level. So like, I like it. I don't like it. I struggle. Like I go back and forth on it the more I think about Brook.
Here's where it's hard is exactly what you're saying is like, essentially what I want is a 3-man center rotation. And I just don't think it's like realistic. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I want all of Duren, Stewart, and Brook Lopez, and I want them to play, 16 minutes a night each, which isn't realistic at all. I think Stu played a little less than 20. I don't know, because I would have to look how many minutes Paul Reed played this year for the Pistons. Obviously, it was a lot in the playoffs because of the injury to Stewart. I just don't think Brook Lopez is signing up for that role, right? Like Brook Lopez isn't going to look at Detroit and be like, oh yeah, I'll come in and be the third center. He's not going to do that at this point in his career. And so then it's like, are you bringing in Lopez and completely replacing Jalen Duren? I mean, I thought he was fine.
Honestly, I thought that Duren in what was it? I think it was last night in I thought game 5 and game 6 for Jalen Duren might be the two best games that I have seen Jalen Duren play like back to back in his career. And I've watched a lot of Pistons games.
Yeah, I thought he was fine. Like, I don't think he like stood out in a crazy positive way if you look at the series as a whole, but I thought he was fine to good. But to the question, I do wonder if Trajan eventually has to make a decision between the two to fully unlock one or the other. And, you know, then you have to decide who are you going to prioritize. Duren has to get paid earlier than Ausar, which I think is part of the equation as well. He's extension eligible this summer. And so it's the center position is just a really interesting position for the Pistons, because it would be really cool to see a stretch big. But where do the minutes come from if you do keep Duren? And I don't think you want to move on from Isaiah Stewart. And so like, that's why it's fascinating to me, where I would love Brook Lopez for, 15 minutes a night and to, be there for an average of a season to play when one of them's hurt and foul trouble and stuff like that. But is Brook Lopez signing up for that at this point in his career? I don't know that he's to that point yet. So while I think he would be an awesome addition, I don't know that practically it makes sense on the roster.
And the other piece of this is like, what C asked ultimately is like, what do you do with Duren? Right? Like, I don't extend him this summer.
I don't offer him a contract I think he would accept is my answer to this question. Is I would offer him an extension that I assume that Jalen Duren and his representation would turn down.
I think that's where I'm at too. And, if he signs it, great. My guess is he won't, right? But a big piece of this is just like, what do you think he becomes on defense? Yeah. Because I have been unimpressed by and large throughout his career. I think he's gotten better, like to an extent.
Rim protection has gotten better. The foundational like anchor of your defense, big man stuff, ball screens, whatever, I don't think has taken huge strides. But the general like rotation, blocks, contests, hustle, recovery plays have definitely improved.
Yeah. And that's where like you have to trust the human being to improve. Yep. Like you have to trust the human to like make a leap in that regard. And look, like, my guess is that an option that would be on the table for them is the Lakers.
Sure.
Right. They tried to get Mark Williams. Obviously that didn't work. Jalen Duren is in a very similar situation to Mark Williams. If the Lakers were to offer like a real first in Dalton Connect or something like that for Jalen Duren, like I probably do that just because I think it's a better expenditure of assets at the end of the day for them. And I think that you can find what Jalen Duren brings you for cheaper in the market, let's go with, than what Jalen Duren is likely to cost.
That is the thing right there, Sam, is can you go find a cheaper version of that? And then especially if you are able to get a real asset, whether it's Connect or a first round pick or, whatever it is, it doesn't even have to be the Lakers, but could you trade Duren for whatever the Lakers offer and then go sign Day'Ron Sharpe from the Nets? And, maybe the Nets would match whatever you offer him, but then you bring him in at a number that's probably going to be less than what Duren is going to want. Can you, just as a,
but like he doesn't. So like, I like Day'Ron, but like, he doesn't really work for them because he's not really a lob threat. Right. So like to me, it does need to be like a rim protecting lob threat. The funny answer to all of this is that like, if I was the Pistons, the guy I would kind of want is in this year's draft. It's Jan Berenje from France. I think he'd be like a perfect, developmental player to take with Cade Cunningham as like a young big that you could continue to like replenish and try to make work. I'm not saying he's a perfect player. I don't think he's anywhere near being able to play like real playoff minutes or anything. But if your goal is to like find the big that could work with him, it's like rim runner who's mobile and active on defense, right? And that's just not what Duren has proven to be at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree. It'll be a fun off season for them, and especially now that there's real expectations and you don't want to take a step back. I want to go back to the Knicks real quick. I also want to shout out Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby in this game. I thought those two wings played really, really well. and OG was incredible defensively all series long. I thought Mikal had possessions here and there where he was good, but those two wings in a game where Karl Anthony Towns was not good again, at least scoring the basketball, put up 47 points on 30 shot attempts. So I wanted to make sure to shout those two guys out because I thought that was a pretty big performance from the wings of New York.
I thought OG was the third best player in the series, like over the course of the entirety of it.
Yeah. Jalen, Cade, tier break, OG leads the next tier. I would agree.
Totally agree. He goes for 17 points on 42, 35, 90. But the defense was awesome. It was so reliable. He was everywhere in passing lanes and in help. And he took the primary assignment on Cade consistently. I mean, it was just awesome. He was so good, I thought.
Yep, I agree. He was really good. I always have to shout out Josh Hart because I just think Josh Hart makes momentum changing plays, whether it's an offensive rebound or whatever. He had 13 and 10 in this game. I thought he had a good series overall as well, but I'm fascinated to see what this next round looks like for the Knicks, Sam, because with all due respect to the Pistons, the Celtics are a little bit of a different monster. And I don't know.
Not only that, but like a lot of what the Celtics do, I think plays into the flaws that the Knicks showcased in this round. I do think it'll be important for them to have Drew Holiday back. For sure.
Yeah.
If Drew is not there, I think that there are matchups that can be had for like Jalen to be able to attack in some way, shape, and form. But I have not seen a whole lot from this Knicks team that makes me think they're competitive with Boston.
Yeah. I think in a weird way, I think I'm almost more excited for the other series. I don't know. I just found myself juiced for this Pacers Cavs series. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hoping the Knicks just, like they put it all together and maybe this series hardened them in a way that has them a little bit more prepared and it didn't just flat out wear them down for their series against the Celtics. I'm a little nervous they're not ready for it, but maybe they will be. This is the ultimate series for them, right? Like this is kind of why this team was assembled, was to go up against Boston. I know it didn't play out well in the regular season, but the players know that. Maybe they'll have a chip and they'll really show out and put it together at the right time.
I think that the big thing for me is that this Celtics team is better than anybody in the league at creating mismatch opportunities.
Yeah.
And isolating poor defenders onto players like Jason Tatum.
Yep.
That's what I would be really worried about with the Knicks, because Towns and Brunson just did not show themselves well on that end, at least in this series.
And Detroit didn't do a consistently good job of getting Brunson in those situations that I think the Celtics will be better at. And I was thinking about it today, the way that the Knicks defended the Cade, Tim Hardaway Jr. ball screen stuff to try to force Brunson into the action. Cade could have had a wide open dribble up 3-point attempt anytime he wanted. He just wasn't confident in it because he wasn't making it. Jason Tatum will just go crazy. And so New York's going to have to figure that out. And if it's ever just a switch, obviously they're going to attack it. And they just have so many different ways to attack the Knicks defense that Detroit just simply was hamstrung trying to do.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Couple of quick news and notesy things. I don't really have anything else to say about that series. Sure. It was awesome. It was amazing.
It was fun. Yeah.
The physicality was incredible. Like, thank you to both the Knicks and the Pistons for playing that series as competitively.
I would just say real quick, I had multiple random quote unquote people in my life who would text me and be like, man, the Pistons are a lot of fun. Like one of my former players was like, I'm gonna buy a Pistons jersey because my Lakers suck, and so I'm gonna go buy a Cade jersey or something like that. And so I think it just kind of stood out to and spoke to what that series was. And I think general NBA fans that are kind of turning into the playoffs and really getting into it, how impressed they were and how much fun the series was.
Okay. Quick news and notesy stuff. So TUOMAS IISALO is going to be the Memphis Grizzlies coach.
Yep.
Great. Like,
Sure.
cool. Look, I loved his teams with Paris.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I loved the way that they spaced and they moved. I loved the way that they ran like super heavy ball screen stuff for TJ Shorts and Nadir Heafy. Like I thought that they were so fun to watch. I will be really interested to see what it looks like for a full season in the NBA. I think that I also, like we talked about some of the adjustments that he made in game 3 before Ja's injury when they were up 30 and it looked like they were going to get to a game 5 and like that just didn't happen because of the injury. But I think there's a real chance he can be a very, very, very good coach in the NBA. Look, there are things we don't know, just like what his relationship is like with players, like everything like that. I'm not going to pretend to have any idea, but just like from a scheme, X's and O's, everything like that, like I am very impressed with IISALO, and I'm at least intrigued enough to see where this goes. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's going to go great, but I think that there's at least a chance it goes really, really well.
Yeah, I'm with it. I'm fine with it. Like you said, I think that's always important context with coaches is we don't have the insight necessarily to the locker room, the player relationships, how they like even simple stuff like, do they get along with the GM and can they get on the same vision and the same plan? Because we just saw that play out in for a different Western Conference team and it didn't turn out so well. So those are some of those insights, but I'm cool with it. It sounds like he's an innovative offensive mind. I'm more fascinated to know what team he's going to have on the floor next year and what that roster is going to look like if there are any major moves, but I'm fine with it. I'm cool with it. I'm excited to see how it plays out.
And finally, Gregg Popovich has decided to move on from coaching. At this point, it will be Mitch Johnson moving into the coach's chair in San Antonio. Gregg Popovich will continue on as team president. I mean, look, like Gregg Popovich is an icon as a coach, right? Like there are only so many, positive words that can be said about him. Like he's unbelievable. The track record of success, the long-term stability that he's brought to the organization, just a legend. And I am, hopeful that he can get back to, working full time and, being a piece of that Spurs organization moving forward. It feels like that's just what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, hopefully health-wise, he's doing okay and feeling good, and this will allow him to, longevity for his life. It was fun today. I don't know if it was my Twitter. I assume it was my Twitter feed was popping up like Popovich, like old school. Like he said something about Luka dropping 50 and then Luka went out and dropped 51 on him. And so like he kind of like the post-game interaction between the two. And then there was one where I don't know the context for sure, but they did hack a Shaq literally to start the game. And Shaq kind of looked pissed off and Popovich was just like laughing because they were kind of clowning him about it or whatever. So there must be some context behind the scenes, but it's just like, for a guy, there's just a personality there that it's fun whenever you watch the ins and outs of the games and you do the huddle interviews and the court, whatever, the timeout interviews and all of that. You get to know like you could see how he could have a really cool relationship with his players, right? Because you can just see the fun loving personality that he showed at times. And obviously, like you said, an icon of the NBA in terms of coaching with all of his success. And again, I hope health-wise he's okay. It sounds like he is. I'm sure he'll do great in his position. And again, another position where a team promoted from within, right? I think that's 3 of these this offseason where the Kings gave it to their interim coach, Grizzlies gave it to their interim coach, the Spurs gave it to their interim coach. And, the Nuggets job technically, could do the same thing. So kind of interesting how these have played out so far this year.
Completely agree. With Mitch Johnson, like I had my questions like here and there, but the big thing for me is like, we just haven't seen him coach a full year realistically. Like, he was there for 30 games or whatever when after Pop went down or maybe 35 it was. And then after that, like Wemby goes out and the whole thing is just like a total mishmash of we're trying to test some things out and we're trying to figure some things out here and there. I don't want to say the jury's out on Mitch Johnson. Like we're going to see what it looks like next year more than anything. And look, it's incredibly hard to step in mid-season with the uncertainty as to whether or not at a certain point, like they probably knew that Gregg wasn't coming back mid-season, right? They probably knew Pop was, not going to come back at a certain point, but like early on, you probably wonder, how long is this my job? Like, what am I doing? How much of an imprint do I put on the team? How much is it my show entirely, right? Is Pop coming back at some point? Can I, make this move knowing that? Like there are so many different reasons why I think that we might not have just gotten to see the best of Mitch Johnson this year. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I agree. It will be interesting. And that roster will be like they'll expect to win next year, with Wemby coming back ideally healthy and adding De'Aaron Fox and Steph Castle a year older. So we'll find out real quick. I think so. Is the Suns' job is the only coaching position open, along with the Nuggets using an interim head coach, right? I believe that's right. I
believe that is correct.
I was looking through the standing that
just hire Brian Gregory. It's fine. He has coaching experience, right? Just GM coach. It'll go great with Brian Gregory involved, I'm sure. The guy that, was, I think, finished. Well, let me look up the exact numbers. I think he finished 7th or worse. What was it here? Let's see. We've got Brian Gregory finished 7th or worst at Dayton in 5 of his last 6 years there, when Dayton, as people know, has, I believe, like 2 times the resources of like any A10 program, basically, financially. Then never finished above 9th in 5 years in the ACC, and then never finished above 7th in 5 years at South Florida in the AAC. So, just a solid 16 years of sample here, but maybe he's a better player personnel guy than he is a coach. But let's just hire him as the coach. We'll do GM coach. It'll be great. Cool. Like Brian Gregory. Let's lock him in.
Let him take over the whole thing. Love it.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable that's where we're at here. Okay. The last thing I have for you. I am turning the tables on Bryce Simon here.
Okay.
And we are going to do trivia where I know the answer and Bryce does not.
Okay.
I just did the Kobe Bryant draft guide profile. I'm like well and truly into second rounders now at this point.
Okay.
Kobe Bryant made 43.4% of his threes on over 700, or I think it was exactly 730 career 3-point attempts.
Okay.
Since 2000, only 5 players over 6'5" that played in top 10 leagues in the country. So basically like the high majors and the mid-high majors, like your A10s, your Mountain Wests, your like Missouri Valleys, et cetera, right? Only 5 players since 2000 who are over 6'5" have made at least 43% of their threes on over 700 career attempts while playing in one of those leagues. Can you name those 5 players beyond Kobe Bryant?
Okay, so 43% on how many?
High volume, 700 career 3-point attempts.
Oh, since what year?
2000. One of them is currently in the NBA.
Buddy?
No.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to give you a hint. Think ultra Caucasian. Super white. All 5 of them.
Okay, so initial names like Korver comes to mind.
That's one. Kyle Korver.
JJ comes to mind.
JJ is not one of them. Also not over 6'5", but
oh, I forgot the 6'5". My bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Duncan Robinson?
Duncan Robinson is not one of them.
Damn.
Didn't take 700 career 3-point attempts.
So that's where I'm struggling, is like guys that played that many games. So I got Korver.
You have Korver, that's one.
Okay, I have to look up the height on one player.
Just give me the name, I'll tell you.
Sam Merrill's not 6'5".
No, Sam Merrill, for what it's worth, was extremely close, though. I actually think Sam Merrill was listed at 6'5" at Utah State, for what it's worth. He was 42% on 700 attempts. He was, I think, like the closest player to not make the list. So Sam Merrill is a very good guess.
Shireman, I don't think shot that well.
No.
Steve Novak.
Steve Novak is number 2.
So who was one? Was Korver one?
Korver is 1. I don't know the order they're in, but
okay.
Korver is 1. Steve Novak is 2. You have 3 more.
Trajan? Is Trajan one?
Trajan is not 6'5".
Oh, dang. What's he listed at? I've met him in person. He's not that much shorter than me. 6'4".
I would guess
okay.
Trajan Langdon was I was gonna say like 6'3".
Interesting. Because maybe he didn't stand up when we met. I'm trying to think of some of the KU guys. Heinrich
is not one of them.
He's not 6'5" either.
I think he didn't take enough attempts either. He was a guy that like consistently, drilled threes when he took them, but did not take enough attempts.
Yeah, I'm struggling with the 6'5". So Korver and Novak.
One guy currently plays in the NBA. One guy is from like around the 2000 marker. And then one guy, I believe, works for like some like Vermont inspection company or something, according to his LinkedIn.
So Taylor Coppenrath, is that the Vermont guy?
Not one. No, he didn't go to Vermont. The guy.
Oh, okay. Wasn't that Taylor Coppenrath in my
Taylor Coppenrath? Shout out, and TJ Sorrentine.
TJ Sorrentine, yeah. I can remember those two guys, but I can't think of the best shooters in the history of. I mean, Adam Morrison didn't shoot that well.
Not Morrison.
Like, yeah, he just
like catch and shoot is where you want to live here.
Yeah. One guy in the NBA.
Yes. Like a fairly obvious one too.
So I'm missing an obvious one.
Yeah, if we're thinking like peak caucasity, like catch and shoot snipers.
I'm out of. Let me go through teams here and try to see if I can at least get that one.
We have talked about them on the podcast today.
Really?
Sort of like on the side a little bit. I'm a little bit surprised. So, do you think you have any chance at the 2000s one?
Oh, Hauser.
Hauser is 3.
Okay. I don't like, maybe if you gave me no, probably not.
UCLA is the school.
Capono?
Yes, Jason Capono is 4.
Okay.
And then the 5th one is just an all-time legend. Like all-time college basketball random name.
From where? Give me a conference. Like, can you? Is there some sort of hint?
You have named the school within this already. Like one of the 4 players that you've named already, same school.
Okay, so
you've named UCLA, Marquette, Creighton, and I guess Virginia as well. Trying to think if there's a chance you played against this person at some point.
I never played those schools.
Okay. Because it's like similar-ish era to you. It's like a little bit at like he like started his career right around the time you finished.
I finished,
I guess.
We played, UCLA played right after us. The last game of my career at Wachovia in Philly.
Yeah.
But we didn't play them.
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to get this one.
I don't think
My
so.
guess is honestly, you're not going to get this one. Ethan Rogge at Creighton.
I would not have gotten.
Do you remember Ethan Rogge?
I do not.
Do you remember him just like blitzing Villanova for like 1 billion threes in 2014?
I don't remember this. Huh.
Oh, like one of the like all-time like great like announcer calls. He drilled like I think it was 9 threes in a game against Nova in January. I think that I was, if I remember correctly, I don't know. I don't know where I was. Like I can remember him drilling these threes though. It was ridiculous. Had like another game against Marquette later in the year where it was a monster. Ethan Rogge, over the course of his career, drilled 43.9% from 3 on 761 3-point attempts in his final year at Creighton. Ethan Rogge led the country in 3-point makes, 3-point attempts, and 3-point percentage. So took more threes than anybody in America and made them at a higher percent than anybody in America.
That's
impressive. Or no, yeah, that's right. Or at least in the Big East. It might not be in America, but yeah. I'm looking at the sports reference page and like trying to figure out like where he fell among like the country, basically, in terms of volume.
That's unreal. Yeah, he took 200.
He led the country in 3-point volume and in 3-point percentage. Shout out Ethan Rogge.
That's awesome.
Could not move. could not move. And the reason I bring this up is Kobe Bryant obviously fits this criteria as well. Kobe Bryant drilled 43.4% of 730 3-point attempts over his last 2 years. Kobe Bryant hit 46.5% from 3 on 465 3-point attempts. I'm like, it's hard for me I don't think Kobe Bryant can do like anything else, honestly, like at an NBA level. But with how important shooting is, it's getting hard for me not to have Kobe Bryant in my top 40.
Sure. Yeah. He can really shoot it. So this always brings me back. I played with a kid from Seattle, Garrison Carr. I was looking it up. Our junior year, he shot 45% from 3 on 300 attempts. He made 135 threes our junior season.
That is a ridiculous number.
Yeah. And so that was
truly
I'm pretty sure the numbers that year were him and Steph. I think that was Steph's year at Davidson. So
yeah. Hey, anytime I can ask questions about you and your 3-point sniping brethren at 6'6", you got to do it, right?
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Garrison Carr was like 5'9", so I made a total of 57 in my career. 37% on 115 attempts before I got hurt. So
yeah, well, that's it's beautiful basketball though.
Yeah.
Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, the Motor City Hoops Substack, which is going to slow down a little bit now that the Pistons season's over, but we'll put out some stuff over there, some off season, some second round options for the Pistons into the first round in case they do get frisky and trade up. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, I am going to do some video stuff for Knicks Film School throughout how much ever longer the Knicks last in the playoffs. So Saturday, if you want to take a look at the Jalen Brunson breakdown I did, not just like, hey, he scored 40 points, but how did he do it? Off-ball movement, passing, creation, all sorts of stuff. That'll be found over there on the Knicks Film School YouTube channel, as long as breakdowns throughout the entire series. So even if you're a Celtics fan, they will have a Celtics flair to it as well as I go throughout the series with those. The Pistons Pulse podcast, if you're interested there. Otherwise, right here, the Game Theory podcast with the Sam Vecenie.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. We will have some fun stuff coming up here. As I mentioned, I'm like pretty deep into the draft guide now. If I'm getting to Kobe Bryant, right? You know, Kobe Bryant, really fun player, but I'm like fully into second rounders now. Like I have really turned the corner at this point to where I can kind of zoom through, not zoom through, but like, you know, I'm still writing probably 30,000 more words, but like I'm not, you know, as detailed on the second rounders as I am on the first rounders for obvious reasons. And yeah, I'm excited to share this thing for you. Once it all comes together, I will have other stuff coming for sure. More than that, we will have off-season previews at some point, probably starting next week. Andrew and I are kind of getting that together a little bit on the back end so that Bryce can come on and just talk. That is the goal, for Bryce to be able to come on and just talk. Also, shout out to Rachel for mentioning this. We are
Hey, let's go.
About 600 subscribers short of 30,000. We immensely appreciate all of you for coming through, hitting that subscribe button. We've done an amazing job building that subscriber base over the course of the playoffs. We can't emphasize enough how appreciative we are of all of it. We thank all of you guys for coming and hanging out every single night that we do one of these playoff recaps. Bryce and I are going to get into draft stuff, which is like really where our bread and butter is at some point. So I am super excited to do that. Please go hit the subscribe button. Be one of those 30,000 that subscribe to the show. We will be back probably on Sunday at this point. Again, we're not going live tomorrow. We will be back on Sunday for sure. If those games are good, which given that we have 2 game 7s, I'd imagine that they are, we will probably talk about them. And then, I don't know, Monday or Tuesday, we might do more of like a traditional long, you know, like we typically go on the Sunday show, where it's like, maybe we'll do that with like a mock draft or something like that, where we kind of roll through and talk through NBA draft prospects, because I'm excited to do that. Heading into the combine, we had combine lists released today as well, which is fun, but we're not going to spend a crazy amount of time on that. Maybe we will spend some time on that on Monday or Tuesday. Until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.